Hey folks, I'm Brendan and you're watching the Overqualified Henchman. It's been a while since I've done a shipping manifest video, so a couple of weeks back I asked you guys which franchise you'd like to see me cover, and one of the top requests was the Mass Effect series. So let's do this. I'm Commander Henchman, and this is my favorite shipping manifest on the Citadel. With the first real details about Mass Effect Andromeda starting to trickle out, I'm probably not the only person who decided to prepare with a new playthrough of the original trilogy. We're going to try to tackle all three games in one shot here, which is a lot of ground to cover, so I'm going to assume some basic familiarity and not get too heavy into any of the lore. Let's dive right in with two of your first squad mates who are also two of your first romance options, Lieutenant Kaidan Alenko and Gunnery Chief Ashley Williams. You know how in most Pokemon games there's that first patch of tall grass where you can catch some basic normal types? And they're not bad, really, but part of their job is to make your Charmander look cooler by comparison. Well, in that analogy, Ashley is Spearow and Kaidan is Pidgey. Ashley's the renegade one. She's brash, she shoots first and asks questions later. She's probably the more interesting of the two. Kaidan's the paragon. He's calm, collected, diplomatic, probably the more likable of the two. They're both kind of decaf Shepard, but they're the option for players who want to romance someone who's been with them from the very first step. Ashley's a romance option for male Shep, and Kaidan for female Shep, at least for the first game. And you're going to have to decide if that matters to you, because about midway through the game, you have to make a decision to save one of them and not the other. Don't worry though, the one you let down goes to that big save file in the sky where they can spend all day playing Wicked Grace with the Hawk sibling that you also failed. You monster. The third romance option for Mass Effect 1 is Dr. Liara T'Soni, Asari archaeologist. If you somehow doubted that fan service played a key role in the design of the Asari, the game spends less time talking about how the Geth drove the Quarians off of their homeworld, or the bad blood between the Turians and the Krogan, than it does on explaining how Asari bone. Liara is fine. She's fine. When you first meet her, she's a reserved, bookish type who goes out of her way to avoid ruffling any feathers. She's the only romance option that you can follow seamlessly through all three games, assuming you buy the Lair of the Shadow Broker DLC for Mass Effect 2. In that, she takes over control of a sprawling criminal empire, which definitely makes her more interesting, and a lot of fans consider her the default romance option, partly because she can be romanced by both male and female Shepard. Liara is the pick for players who want consistency, or who want to romance an alien who's not too alien. Let's talk on Shepard's other companions though, like Joker, the Normandy's sarcastic pilot, as voiced by Seth Green. Joker sticks with Shepard from the first cutscene to the very final moments of the series, and a lot of players ship him with Shepard, even if he's not an official romance option. Then there's Rex, Krogan bounty hunter turned leader of his people. Also not a romance option, also a lot of disappointed fans. More relevant to this discussion though are Garrus Vakarian and Tali Zora. She's got like 3 different last names throughout the series, get off my back. Garrus and Tali are both squad mates in Mass Effect 1 and become romance options in Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. Garrus is a loose cannon CSAT cop who hates paperwork and plays by his own rules, and maybe isn't quite as worldly as he thinks he is. He seems like a pretty normal guy for a Turian, but you leave him alone for 2 minutes and he starts calling himself Archangel and going full-on Punisher against organized crime. At the end of the day though, Garrus always has Shepard's back. He's the option for female Shepard players who want to romance their best friend. Now Tali you meet on her pilgrimage, which is kind of like going backpacking across Europe the summer before university. She's an engineer defined by her curiosity, which tends to give her a little more energy than, say, Liara. Her character arc takes her from being someone who refuses to be marginalized to somebody whose expertise cannot be ignored, which is pretty satisfying. Tali's the romance option for male Shepard players who want to watch her go from being a spunky young woman with a crush to a kick-ass adult. Now, between Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2, Shepard dies, which is a bummer, but is brought back to life with cybernetics, which is great, by Cerberus, who are basically terrorists. It also explains why Ashley and Kaidan aren't around for Mass Effect 2, because surprisingly, not on board with the terrorist thing. Instead, you get 2 Cerberus agents, Miranda Lawson and Jacob Taylor. You know how a lot of Star Trek series have that one woman walking around the bridge in a spandex catsuit for reasons? That's Miranda. She was genetically engineered to be perfect by her father, who turns out to be kind of a jerk. So she's beautiful, intelligent, and super condescending. Not surprisingly, she ends up having a little more depth than that. She's the romance option for male Shep players who are looking for, basically an adult who's emotionally self-aware, also carefully framed butt shots. Now Jacob is Ratata. He's a nice guy. He's dependable. He's super boring. Basically, every conversation you have with him starts with, I know Cerberus are bad guys, but I guess he's the romance option for femshep players who just really want to date a human. But he gets married and has a kid in Mass Effect 3, so you can pretty safely put him in the corner and just ignore him. If you're not hung up on the whole human thing, though, there's Thane Krios, Drell Assassin. So there's this strip from Short Pack, the webcomic by David Willis, where a character's talking about the difference between how male and female characters are drawn in comics, and how if a character like Batman was really being drawn with the female gaze in mind, he'd have big, expressive eyes, kissable lips, and a build that emphasizes agility over power. They might as well have been describing Thane with all his green man cleavage. He has a tragic backstory, he's a devoted father, and he's trying to change, baby. Basically, he walked right out of a romance novel. Thane is the romance option for femshep players who want to break them off a piece of that, and don't mind crying a lot when Mass Effect 3 comes around. Rounding out the Mass Effect 2 romance options is Jack. Just Jack. She is very angry, very bald, and very opposed to shirts for some reason. But by Mass Effect 3, she's actually training a new generation of biotics, giving them the help and support that she never had. She's basically Faith in Season 7 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Jack is the romance option for male shep players who liked Faith in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And let's be honest, that's probably a big portion of the people watching this video. Now, there are a couple more romance options in Mass Effect 2, even if they don't technically get you the achievement. There's Samara, the Asari samurai, and her daughter, Morinth, the actual literal sex vampire. Asari. You can also romance Shepard's personal assistant, Kelly Chambers. I realize that Shepard is technically everybody's commanding officer, but something about romancing Kelly is just a little bit skeevier. It might be the lap dances, it's probably the lap dances. Mass Effect 2 also introduces EDI, the sassy lady computer, who hangs out in the cockpit and banters with Joker. In Mass Effect 3, she becomes a sassy lady robot, and the two of them can hook up. Companions you can't romance, Grunt, which is fine because Shepard's basically his mom. The Geth Legion, I've got two words for you, modular attachments. Mordin Solus, although he does give the best sex advice. And DLC squad mates Kazumi and Zaid. They've got their own stuff going on. Now, Mass Effect 3, Ashley and Kaidan are back! I mean, one of them is. The other one's still dead. Sorry. Interestingly, though, Kaidan is now available as a romance option for male Shep. I guess he evolved into Pidgey Out. See, because earlier I said he was like Pidgey, and Pidgey evolves into Pidgeot, but I said it like Pidgey Out because he came out. Look, folks, this is the A material. Mostly Mass Effect 3 allows you to continue on with previous romances, but we do get two new options, Steve Cortez and Samantha Trainer. And sweet googly moogly, these are both for realsies same-sex options. No, gender has no real meaning for us excuses. Steve's your new shuttle pilot, and an interesting case because his husband died in an attack by the Collectors, the baddies that Shepard fought in Mass Effect 2. That makes it a pretty fresh wound, and he's still grieving. I'd say Cortez is the romance option for players really looking for that love in wartime vibe. Samantha, meanwhile, is a comm specialist, taking all the information coming into the Normandy and giving Shepard the best tips on new missions and resources. She's known for her kick-ass board game skills, and some would say disproportionate focus on bathing and oral hygiene. Sam makes for an interesting contrast in that she's much more forward than other romance options. I think you can make the argument that she pursues Shepard as opposed to the other way around. Another new companion character is James Vega. He's a soldier kind of like Jacob, except, you know, with a personality. Unfortunately, Vega isn't actually a romance option. I mean, you can't have a drunken one-night stand with him, but you can also have a drunken one-night stand with Javik, the defrosted Prothean, so take that as you will. That should cover all the romance options for Shepard, but there are other Mass Effect ships. I already mentioned Joker and EDI. If neither Tali or Garrus are romance, they have a bit of a thing going on. James and Ashley do some flirting. There's a lot of unresolved tension between Miranda and Jack. Aria and Irene from the Omega DLC have a lot of history together. And then there's all the crossover fic for Comm Specialist Trainer and Scout Harding from Dragon Age Inquisition. Okay, well, if that last one's not a thing, it should be. Now, wish list for Mass Effect Andromeda? Give me a Krogan love interest BioWare. I'm not saying I would go that way, I just want to know I have the option. Thanks for watching. Drop me a comment down below letting me know about your favorite Mass Effect romance. While you're at it, remember to like, subscribe, and share, and if you've got any ideas for future Shipping Manifest videos, that's the place to put them. Until next time, keep on henching. I should go.